Iran, officially known as the Islamic Republic of Iran. It is one of the largest countries in the Middle East, with a surface area exceeding 1,648,000 square kilometers. It is surrounded by Afghanistan and Pakistan to the east, Iraq and Turkey to the west, Turkmenistan and the Caspian Sea to the north, and the Persian Gulf and the Sea of Oman to the south. It is a country that has always attracted the attention of great powers throughout history due to its strategic location. Today, there are approximately 88 million people living in Iran, and more than 60% of this population is under the age of 30. But Iran is a mosaic country not only geographically but also ethnically. The majority of the population is of Persian origin, but many different peoples live together within the country's borders. Approximately 16% of the population are Azerbaijani Turks, and they live mostly around Tabriz. Nearly 10% of the population are Kurdish. They live especially in cities such as Kermanshah, Sinay, and Mahabad in western Iran. Iranians are stuck in the conflict of modernity and traditionalism. It is a country rich in oil, but its people are in the grip of poverty.
And it all began in 1979.
The Islamic Revolution in Iran was not just a regime change, it was a breaking point that rewrote the destiny of a people. Iran before the revolution was a completely different place. Women were wearing miniskirts, cinemas were full, and Western education was given in universities. Shah Reza Pahlavi was trying to modernize the country, but this modernization was enriching the elite, not the people. Peasants, workers, and conservative groups began to become angry. And finally, Ayatollah Khomeini appeared on the scene. Even though he was in exile, he shook the country with his tapes. Khomeini's message was clear: we will restore Islam to dominance. In 1979, the Shah fled the country, Khomeini returned, and millions welcomed him as a liberator. However, this was not freedom, but the beginning of a brand new oppression. The Islamic Republic of Iran was declared, and the entire system was re-established based on Sharia. Women were forced to wear the headscarf, and dissidence was silenced. Iran was no longer a West, nor a free East. The new regime declared everyone an enemy, not only domestically but also abroad. Anti-American and anti-Western rhetoric has become state policy. Theocratic rule was a system in which the religious leader was above all else. There were elections, but the results seemed predetermined. Newspapers were closed, writers were imprisoned, women's voices were silenced.
And a youth who grew up in this atmosphere turned into an object ready to explode years later.
The Iranian people did not remain silent. There were three major waves of rebellions in 1999, 2009, and most recently in 2022. In 2009, the Green Movement took to the streets, with millions protesting, believing their votes were stolen. But the regime responded to these protests brutally: arrests, torture, and executions. But the most vocal was the rebellion that began with the death of Mahsa Amini. This was the moment when not only a woman's but also a nation's patience was broken. Mahsa Amini, 22 years old, detained by morality police because her headscarf was not worn correctly.
And a few days later, his lifeless body was delivered.
This incident broke out like a fire in the hearts of Iranian women. The death of Mahsa Amini, aged 22, showed not only a rebellion, but also the tipping point of a people's patience. And the symbol of this rebellion was a Kurdish phrase: Jin, Jiyan, Azadi, woman, life, freedom. Mahsa was also of Kurdish origin, and this slogan spread throughout Iran in a short time. Headscarves were burned, women and young people stood up together in universities. But the regime was the same. It responded with bullets, batons, detentions, and internet shutdowns. And so one of the strongest women's resistance in Iran went down in world history. Being a woman in Iran is not only difficult, sometimes it is a battle for survival. Women receive less inheritance, and 2 male witnesses are not present in court. They need permission from their husbands or fathers to travel. But despite all these limitations, Iranian women are not silent. Throughout history, the strongest opposition has always come from women. And that's why the regime's biggest fear is a woman's cry of "enough!" It is not easy to be young in Iran either. The internet is censored, social media is banned, everything from Spotify to Netflix is blocked. Young people are opening up to the world with VPN, but this can also be considered a crime.
Even in universities, freedom of thought is almost non-existent.
But despite this, Iran's youth are among the most integrated minds in the world. We have before us a generation that has learned to generate hope in the midst of oppression. The country is rich in oil, but its people are struggling with an economic crisis. The rial has lost its value and inflation has skyrocketed. Sanctions, mismanagement, and corruption have brought the country down. Once the shining economic star of the Middle East, Iran now imports even basic foodstuffs. And this situation fuels public anger even more. Because hunger and religious propaganda do not go hand in hand. Walking the streets of Tehran at night was once a poetic experience. Now there are morality police patrolling every corner. Those who do not comply with religious rules are immediately warned and sometimes detained. Music cannot be played in the street. Dancing is considered a crime. Love is lived in secret. Even holding hands requires courage. In this atmosphere, people become each other's hope to breathe. Even Iran's cinema is resisting the pressure. Names such as Jafar Panahi and Asghar Farhadi were censored many times by the regime, but received awards around the world. Their cinemas turned into a stage of resistance. Iranian directors found ways to show the truth within the prohibitions.
Every film is a rebellion. Every scenario is a lament.
Because silencing art has never been completely possible in these lands. Today's Iran is a country full of contradictions. On one side, thousands of years of Persian heritage. On the other, the current totalitarian system. On one side, the sound of the call to prayer. On the other side, the rock music hidden underground. Iran may be both one of the darkest and brightest countries.
But one thing is certain, this country is still burning for change.
Before moving on to the next section, if you watched this video up to this point, thank you guys. If you want to support us a little, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment. The streets of Iran are still in turmoil today. The occasional demonstrations you see on the news are just the surface. Deep down, there is a repressed anger that has been suppressed for years. The regime is trying to stop this anger with repression, but each new repression ignites another spark in the people. University campuses, women's associations, even street musicians have become the carriers of this rebellion. There is silence in Iran, a silence that is ready to explode. The regime is based on the absolute power of the supreme leader. Ayatollah Khamenei has been the most powerful person in the country for years. Presidents change, but he is always there. Nothing the people vote on really determines the outcome. The Constitutional Council eliminates candidates and charts the course of the elections. Democracy is a window. Behind it, there is absolute control. And in Iran, the name of fear is the Revolutionary Guard. This special military structure is tasked with protecting the regime, but is actually used to intimidate the people. Their shadow is on the streets, in universities, even on social media. Detentions, disappearances, and summary executions of dissidents have become commonplace. The worst part is that no one dares to talk about it, because the fate of those who do is unknown.
Censorship is a way of life in Iran. Much of the internet is inaccessible. Even Google doesn't work properly. Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all dangerous places to access with a VPN. State TV channels are the center of propaganda. Young people can only explore the world through secret channels. But even those secret channels are sometimes under the regime's control. Every step is monitored with spyware.
In Iran, art is one of the greatest forms of resistance. Graffiti whispers hope on walls. Poems circulate underground. Films are whispered at festivals. Women join the resistance with secret photos showing their hair. Music has gone underground. Every note is a rebellion. The regime tries to ban everything but cannot chain the imagination.
The economic collapse is eating away at people's daily lives. Prices in markets change every day. Wages are melting away. People are forced to meet even their basic needs on the black market. Young people dream of a future abroad. Hundreds of thousands of Iranians try to leave the country every year because hope seems to lie beyond their borders. But not everything is so dark. People in Iran are still in solidarity. Neighbors help each other. They help people who fall on the street. Despite all the oppression, humanity stands tall. Women dance, young people sing, old people pray. These are people who have resisted oppression for centuries, and this time they have no intention of giving up. Iran's history is not only full of pain. The splendor of Persepolis, the poetry of Shiraz, the domes of Isfahan. These lands were once the heart of science and art. No matter how much the regime suppresses it, this deep-rooted past seeps from every corner, in every mosque, on every stone, in every story. The Iranian people do not forget that past, and they are not allowed to forget it.
In Iran, religion is both a belief and a test for the people. Even the religious are uncomfortable with the regime, because Islam exists for justice, not oppression. And Iranians know this. They think that a state governed by religion harms religion. That's why the demand for religious freedom is as strong as the demand for secularism. The Iranian women's uprising is not just about the headscarf. It is just a symbol. The real issue is equality, rights, and being able to make your voice heard. Young girls are silently protesting in schools, and male students are supporting them. This struggle, coming from the very depths of society, is what scares the regime the most. Because if women stand up, nothing will remain the same. And perhaps the most striking fact is this. Most Iranians are one of the most hospitable and kindest people in the world. This people, who seem strict and closed from the outside, offer tea, food, and stories to strangers who come to their homes. Because the tougher the regime, the warmer and softer the people are. Knowing the real Iran requires going beyond propaganda.
Everything in Iran is a contradiction: roughness and elegance, prohibition and fantasy, fear and hope. But that hope never truly disappears. Each generation comes out braver than the last. And one day, the morning that breaks through Iran's dark night will surely dawn. This country can be the address not only of suffering, but also of change.
Iran is fighting a great struggle not only domestically, but also abroad. Its relations with the West have been on edge for years. The heavy sanctions imposed because of its nuclear program are directly affecting the people. As the economic crisis grows, the leaders are giving the world a hard time with threatening language. But the price of these tensions is always borne by the ordinary people. Iranians are fighting both the regime domestically and isolation abroad. Nuclear agreements are constantly being signed and then cancelled. One day they say there is hope, the next day the sanctions start again. The West cannot distinguish the Iranian people from the regime. But the truth is, the Iranian people are against most of these policies. They are just trying to live and breathe. There is a humanitarian cry, not a political crisis. But this cry often goes unnoticed by the world media.
Iran also has an invisible power: the diaspora. Millions of Iranians live abroad: America, Germany, Canada, Turkey. Each one carries both Iran's past and future. Engineers, artists, scientists. They are trying to leave their mark on the world for their people. Iranians in the diaspora have become a source of both hope and support, because freedom sometimes becomes an idea that grows outside the country.
Campaigns that started on social media, music that spread underground, films shot in exile. Iranians are everywhere now. Borders cannot stop them. The protests that started after Mahsa Amini shook not only Iran, but the world. Women showed solidarity by cutting their hair. This has become a global call for freedom, not a geographical one. The Iranian people are not alone. The world is now hearing them more. Today, many young people in Iran live with the dilemma of either revolution or exile. They will either fight or leave. But those who stay and those who choose to leave have the same hope: to live in a free Iran one day. Because change is no longer a possibility, it is a necessity. Repressive regimes do not last forever. Everything has an end. Every oppression has a morning.
Iran's greatest power is its culture. With its poetry, cuisine, architecture, it is still breathing. This regime is temporary, but the imagination, voice, and will of the Iranian people are permanent. Which government can destroy Hafez's verses, Rumi's love? Which wall can silence a mother's scream? Iran will rise again with that deep civilization. And then, not only Iran, but the entire world will win. This video tells not only about Iran's current state, but also its potential. Because Iran is neither a country of crisis nor a dark news headline. Iran is a country of resistance, art, and hope. And that hope will one day grow to overthrow regimes. When that day comes, the loudest applause in history will rise in these lands. The Iranian people do not just want their freedom, they deserve it.
In this video, we talked about Iran, but we actually talked about people. Their broken hopes, their suppressed dreams, but also their never-ending resistance and faith. If these feelings have passed to you, then the purpose of this video has been achieved. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share your voice with us in the comments. See you in the next video, friends. Remember, silence is sometimes deeper than screaming.